Hello and welcome, Whisky Clubbers, to our November Club Catch-Up. I'm so stoked to be here at Club HQ down in Hobart. A rare thing for a Club Catch-Up these days, but an awesome one nonetheless. We are here in person at Club HQ with the whiskey maker that made your November Whisky of the Month. We're here with Carlie Dyer of Starward.
Yes.
Hello, Carlie.
Hi everyone. Thank you for having me.
We're going to have a wonderful little evening here, chatting through the Project Ruby with the person who made it. We hope you've all got a whiskey. Shout us out in the comments. Let us know what you're sipping on. Hopefully, it is a little bit of Starward. Hopefully, you've saved some in the bottle there to taste with us this evening. Before we get properly stuck into the chit chat, we do have one of, I'd say, Australia's greatest sources of whiskey knowledge. I'll go that far. In Carlie. Carlie's been working in the industry for forever and a day, and has forgotten more than I know about whiskey. So please drop those questions that you've got into the comments. We'll dig into those a little later on, and do remember as well that whoever asks the best question over the course of the tasting will get to score the December Whisky of the Month to take home at the end of the tasting. So drop those questions in there. Keep the chit chat going. We've got Gail and Fletcher keeping an eye on those ones, and they'll be slinging the questions through to us, and we'll get stuck into those a little later on. But first of all, a bit of chat. Carlie's been down for a couple of days. We had a wonderful tasting on Sunday afternoon at the Still, the Lark Bar. Carlie took a bunch of very lucky Hobart members through a real smorgasbord of delicious Starward whiskies, and we finished off on our Whisky of the Month, the Starward Project Ruby. That was an awesome one. Carlie's been filling her time down here in Hobart with plenty of drams, and I understand that today you've been out and about visiting Tasmanian distilleries. Who have you been to today?
Yes, well, I've been to Killara, which was really impressive to see that operation, and Christy took me through that, tried some drams, really love what she's doing there. And we went to Sullivan's Cove this morning as well, which was really cool to see that their new setup. Tasted so many interesting drams at Heartwood, which was a highlight, and the first stop actually this morning. So that was really fun to just see all of that. And we finished off with Lark,
awesome,
which was so beautiful just to see that site, taste their whiskies and see what's going on in the Tasmanian scene, because since I've been at Starward, I've been with Starward for 7 years, I haven't been to Tasmania. I came when I was working in the wine industry to taste wine, but have only looked at whiskey from Tasmania from the mainland, I suppose. But really cool to see what's going on here.
Well, you've had a real classic sort of greatest hits of Tasmanian whiskey. There's only a few that you haven't gotten to there that were probably a little further afield. I'm sure any of our members who are watching along today who've ever been down to Heartwood fully know what you mean in terms of getting a lot of drams. That's certainly a real candy shop of a bond store to get into down there.
Yeah, so cool.
And the new Sullivan's distillery is certainly something to see.
Yeah, and it was nice to see Joel, who is the head brewer down there. He used to work at Starward with me, and we sort of learnt on the same plant together, and seeing, I don't know, the really sweet equipment that Sullivan's have.
Lovely. It's always, it is a small industry, and it's always nice to run into people as you bounce around, particularly when they've got the keys to the bond store or the brew kit, as the case may be.
Definitely.
Awesome. Well, just to kick us off, it might be good before we get to the Whisky of the Month. I'm sure we've probably got a couple of members watching along today who have never had a Starward before, or who this Whisky of the Month was their very first Starward. So if you could maybe give us just a little bit of a rundown of your story with Starward, or you can kick off with way back in the day and the very origins of Starward and how it all came about. But yeah, maybe just give a bit of an introduction to the distillery itself and what it's all about.
Yeah, sure. So Starward was founded by David Vitale, who actually worked at Lark for a little bit, and it's the idea of Starward began in 2007, and Dave essentially wanted to make a really accessible whiskey that spoke to Melbourne and where it comes from. So we started maturing in a pair of wine casks from McWilliams, and as we grew, we started to just move to more red wine casks from the Yarra Valley, the Barossa Valley, all over Australia.
Sorry, just realised that nobody can see us. That's wonderful.
True.
This is my first virtual tasting, so we're all learning as we go here.
It's not a virtual tasting without a couple of.
It's not a virtual tasting without a couple of technical hiccups.
Yeah. Anyway, I'll keep talking about Starward. You can hear me. So, yeah, we really lent into the wine cask side of things, and we do full maturation in wine casks. And it just made so much sense because Australia has such great wines, and those casks are quite readily available. They're more sustainable than shipping over a container from overseas, and they're a lot cheaper, and we sort of have like a circular economy with the wine industry, and then give our barrels back to the brewery. And yeah, so my journey started in wine, and I've worked for larger wineries and worked as a lab manager out in the Yarra Valley before I moved to Starward. This was 7 years ago. And yeah, I've never looked back.
Well, what better time to do it than with a whiskey in your hand at Whisky Club headquarters?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Have you got visuals?
We do not have visuals just yet. Sorry, troops. Thank you very much for bearing with us. Just sorry, I'm terribly sorry. I've got very good advice here on how to get rid of this, but I'm not seeing the buttons that I need to. So I might get Fletcher, my very capable assistant, to come and just help me on my second screen here. You should be able to do it from yours.
Oh,
there we go.
You can see one screen.
We're good on Instagram.
Cool.
Now we're coming to you live from club headquarters. Terribly sorry for that. Thank you so much for bearing with us. As Carlie says, wouldn't be a virtual tasting without some technological hiccups. Thank you so much, Carlie, for running us through the history of Starward as a distillery. Where did your story really, I guess, kick in there?
Yeah, so I moved to Starward in 2018, and that was when Twofold had come out, and we started to expand into global markets, and we had quite an exponential growth phase. And I saw the distillery go through its second upgrade. So we started near the airport in Essendon Fields, and then we moved to Port Melbourne, which is where we are now. And I started as a distiller, but I quickly went into the blending side of things from my wine background and knowledge, and a lot of the brewers and distillers at Starward come from either the brewing industry or the wine industry. So I definitely, when I make whiskey, I sort of lean into that sort of winemaking element, especially with the barrels that we use, coming from the wine industry and having so many different levels of species, wine varieties, toasting, and whatnot. So
yeah, bit of a perfect storm coming from the wine blending side of things and having all of that knowledge, and then finding yourself at probably one of the preeminent wine cask maturing single malt distilleries in the world. That's awesome.
Yeah,
that's great. We might. I think it's interesting. We were talking about this on Sunday. You starting in 2018 at Starward really almost neatly coincides with the very beginnings of the club's interactions with Starward and our collaborations together. This one marks, I think, depending on whether we count single casks or not, the 7th or 8th collaboration we've actually done with Starward. First one back in 2019 with the charred red wine casks, and then moving through a sort of a series of, I guess, progressively more sort of experimental collaborations. Can you give me give the members a little bit of just a quick background on those and how you sort of saw that process evolving, and particularly as we sort of pushed further away from the classic. Even our first collaboration was, as opposed to fresh red wine casks, it was those charred red wine casks.
Yeah.
But then we've sort of taken progressive steps further and further away from that and into the wonderful world of fortifieds.
Yeah.
So how have you seen that sort of process evolve, and how exciting was it to get to the capstone of that series with the Project Ruby?
Yeah, it was really cool through the 3 last releases of this trilogy to see what Starward looked like in casks such as cognac casks, PX casks, Ruby Port casks. So we tend to buy our barrels from Australian wineries, and it was cool to see the different flavors you get from other fortifieds, comparing, say, Tawny to Ruby Port or to Pedro Ximenez. There's or Apera to sherry. There's quite a distinctive difference in those flavor profiles. So with Ruby Port, it was cool to see that like really bright red color come through, all of those sort of jammy fruits in the nose, and like kind of like a nice umami saltiness.
Yeah.
And lots of layers as well. And I think it's really changed in bottle over time. It's a really cool liquid, and all 3 of our the last releases started as red wine casks. So it would have been similar to our core product Nova, which has about a 70% French oak to 30% charred American oak, and we take that liquid, we transfer it, and we finish it in either cognac, PX, or Ruby Port. So Ruby Port, this has nearly been finished or double matured for nearly 3 years.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's definitely, it's a very different Starward. We've never released something like this. You can still see the Starward spirit amongst all of that sort of like Ruby Port character. I'm keen to hear what all the members think about it.
Just all great things. I'll have a quick look and see what our questions and comments are popping in here. Yeah, it's a really interesting point, and yeah, do get stuck into your whiskey, members. We've been with our technical wonders here. I have not picked up my glass yet, but yeah, as you say, just getting that on the nose, just all of those really bright red fruits, some really nice florals as well.
Yeah,
lovely. An interesting point when we're talking about Ruby Port casks, that I guess here in Australia, we're so used to thinking port cask. We hear port, we think really concentrated, small, those classic Lark quarter casks and Callara that, you would have been tasting today. We think of those things, but, port's a really broad church. And, obviously we produce a fair few different varieties here, but a lot of it is in that, that classic tawny, aged, we've got these wonderful casks out in the Barossa and, Seppeltsfield and Williams and places like that. and we think really concentrated and intense, sweet characters. Whereas with this, you've used these Portuguese Ruby Port casks, and as you say, Ruby Port, a much sort of brighter, fresher expression of port. Was there, what was the sort of thinking there? Were you just wanting to try something completely different and get, further away from that sort of New World style of small port cask, or?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's quite a very distinct profile coming from like Portugal, as opposed to like Ruby or Tawny Port in Australia, and I get like a lot of sticky date pudding vibes from Tawny, and like soft sweet caramels, and I really like with this how it works with our spirit, with the bright red fruit characters our spirit normally has. The sort of texture on the palate you get, and the finish of like that sort of like Moorish, intriguing kind of tannin profile.
Yeah, certainly does have that Moorishness, that sort of, sort of just a light dryness that lifts at the back end. It really makes you want to come in and get another sip of it. In fact, I'm going to.
Yeah, I actually like adding a bit of water to this for me. Really bright it, like for the palate. For me, I like it, like a bit of water.
Yeah, we did. Yeah, the choice was to bottle it up at 52, get it that sort of, we wanted this big, bold, punchy Ruby Port.
Definitely delivers that.
It does. It does. But certainly, members, if you're finding it a little intense or a little punchy, it will certainly take water. Yeah.
Also, it evolves over being open in the bottle. What I've noticed as well with mine at home.
Yeah, certainly. We've seen evolution in, obviously we get some sneak preview bottles here at HQ to take photos of, which definitely don't get drunk. But when they came down, it's been really interesting. I literally opened this one today, especially for the tasting, and just seeing how it how they've progressed and how they when you had one sitting with a little air on it.
No, it's been a fun release. The whole trilogy's been really cool. And at the still on Sunday, the tasting I did, I actually brought some cask samples of the cognac. We've still got some of that in Bond Store and PX. It was really cool to look at them side by side, in a sense.
Yeah, 100%. So it sounds like maybe if you visit Carlie at the distillery in Melbourne, you might in a year or two you might be able to pull a single cask from some of the Ruby Port casks that didn't make it into the marriage this go around.
Definitely.
Awesome. One very important thing that I do have to ask you is, in a very nice moment of serendipity, Carlie and I were just out for a little meal before we kicked off the virtual tasting here, and the Kaiser Chiefs song "Ruby" came on as we cheersed our water glasses before we started eating.
That was crazy.
It did feel a lot like serendipity, particularly given that I had heard that that song was basically on repeat the entire time that this one was being decanted and bottled.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was just on loop. And like, I have to thank the packaging lead at Starward for that. He is always making sure that there's really good tunes in the packaging hall, and that sort of just like goes all out into the distillery. It's quite open space, and we distill, blend, brew, bottle on site, all in the one space, and we've got the cellar door and everything. And often we'll be blasting our music, and it will sort of clash with the cellar door music, and you'll hear this like two sounds at once. And we've all got a bit of eccentric taste in music too, but Ruby was playing pretty much non-stop.
Great, excellent. Sounds like a really, really constructive and peaceful place to be doing your work.
Yeah, it was actually quite impressive seeing this come down the line. The sun comes through the Bond Store, and it just was a bright red just coming through the bottling line. It's pretty cool.
We're lacking the sun here, but
yeah, if you've got some sun, you can
the lights up
hold
top.
Your bottle up.
The lights up top at HQ will have to do us, but if you've got a nice view of the sun where you are, snap a picture of your Project Ruby with the sun coming through it. Send it through to us. Pop it in the comments. We might grab a question from the folks, the members at home.
Cool.
Great question from Frederick Jackson. How does the climate of Melbourne affect the taste and qualities of the whiskies that you distill? That's an awesome question and super pertinent to the Starward story, I would say.
Yeah. So yeah, one of our things is our climate, and so Melbourne's a little bit like 4 seasons in one day. You can sometimes have a 42-degree day, and it might drop down to 17 in the same day, which happens probably at least once a year. And it sets everyone's allergies off. People have asthma attacks and things like that. But those extreme temperatures throughout the year really affect the barrels. So the really hot days, they start to expand, and then during winter they'll contract. And so that is essentially accelerating the compounds into the wood interaction with the spirit, which allows us to have a very robust, rounded spirit within 3 Melbourne years. A lot of what we blend is minimum 4 to 5 years old now, but we can get a very mature spirit quite quickly. And it will depend on how much space we have in the bond store too. So if there's more airflow, we tend to get like the casks on the right side of our barrel racks have more color and be more further along than the ones to the left. We don't do any rotating or anything like that. Like we, after working at Starward for 7 years, I know what the wine cask wood does. So I can consistently make our blends knowing which cooperages to choose from. And but yeah, weather does impact it a lot, and especially with wine cask too. So we put our spirit in at 55%. At that ABV, it's a softer extraction on the wood and the wine tannin. It allows our fruit to shine through, and our alcohol goes up by 0.5% a year. So yeah, quite different. Those extreme conditions for those at home who haven't been deeply versed in the world of Scotch whiskey. Carlie's talking about Starward going in at 55%. The general sort of industry standard for Scotch whiskey, and around a lot of the rest of Australia as well, is 63%. So you're filling it at a much higher strength, which means you do get a more aggressive interaction with the wood. So with those changes, those extremes of weather, that's why it makes a lot more sense to go in at that lower 55% ABV. It's an awesome question from Frederick. I reckon we're just going to pull another one from the from the folks watching along at home. Oh, this would be a good one. Nice quick one. It is around dinner time. What food, if any, would you recommend pairing this whiskey with? From Nick Durand. Oh yeah, cool. I feel like sort of Black Forest chocolate would be good, or like a darker chocolate. I think that would go well. A chocolate mousse. I am a big fan of chocolate mousse. Like really, really into it. And often like the shittier chocolate mousse, the better that I like the Nestle one, or even KFC.
You heard it here first. Carlie Dyer of Starward recommends a KFC chocolate mousse to recommend with this one, Nick.
Yeah.
So you can jump on DoorDash and grab that one.
$2.50. It's a bargain, and it's surprisingly really, really good. Yeah. A funny thing came up at the tasting as well. We had cheese, and blue cheese, the penicillin sort of compounds with wine tannin. So that's why you don't normally drink red wine and have like blue cheese anyway. You're normally having a creamy Chardonnay or something like that. But our whiskies go really well with creamy cheeses or cheddars.
Yep. Something, get those fats, cutting down a little bit of that tannin and really breaking it apart, getting some more flavour. Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah, if you can't get any KFC mousse.
If you can't get KFC mousse. There's some awesome questions. I'm going to pull one more little technical one. That's a great one. So Sean's asking, does the size of the oak barrel influence the final product? And that is a great question, particularly when we think about this whiskey, because we're dealing with those Ruby Port casks, which are traditionally, as my understanding is, they're much bigger than the smaller casks that we'd be using here in Australia. So
yeah, definitely. So like most Australian distilleries, we started off using 50 litres and 100 litres. Because you want to get spirit out there quick so you can have some cash flow coming in. So that's what a lot of people do. But as we've grown bigger and as what a lot of distilleries do, they start to barrel at larger formats. So our barrel sizes are minimum 225 litre barriques and 300 litre hoggies. So we do have some 500 litre puncheons or butts, which are great as well. But the bigger the barrel, the less like oak to spirit ratio you're going to get. So it's going to take longer time. You'll have less evaporation, less evaporative losses as well. I like the Wetfield fresh red wine casks to be 225 litres. I think that's a good ratio, but if they're charred, 300 litre minimum for me works, because that gives you a good balance of spirit profile and also a nice balance of oak, instead of having one dominate the other or it taking a long time to mature.
Yep. With the charcoal, you'd see, over that longer maturation, you presumably get a more mellow spirit. There's probably a little bit of that filtration happening. Yeah,
for sure.
Awesome. I'm just flashing back to your earlier comment about the one side of the bond store getting cooked faster. That's crazy. That's like reminds me of in Tennessee, where they're making, Jack Daniels. They got the rick houses and they're 7 stories tall, and they find that the stuff at the top, matures almost twice as quickly as the stuff down the bottom.
It's wild. And we have we've got the distillery and we have barrels there, but we've also got another bond store that has more airflow and higher evaporation and higher ABVs. But that's the great thing about blending whiskey, is that if I've got 2 that are slightly different in maturation, they can complement each other, because you might want a bit more spirit influence, or you might want that red wine character.
Awesome. And it's sounds like just an enormous 3-dimensional kind of sensory puzzle. It might be, I'll just pop that question back down, but that might be a good little, just a good one to touch on when you're building any Starward whiskey, I guess. Is there, obviously you're talking about, you've got such a good feel for what certain cask types and levels of maturation they're going to be doing. What sort of flavor profile do you start out with as a sort of foundation when you're building a Starward whiskey? So when we're building the base for this sort of one-off project release, where do we start in terms of the flavor profile that you're looking for, and particular characteristics that you're trying to build in that blending lab?
So the oak species is something that contributes a lot of flavor. So I love French oak for its top note character. It gives a lot of spice, floral, bright notes. And on the palate, it really has a really interesting sort of complex middle palate that can feel quite linear on the palate with the spice. And then American oak fresh casks I like as well, to add vanillin and coconut. And then the charred, shaved toasted and charred red wine casks we have really fill out the back palate and bring in those sort of furfural characters of caramelization from the wood sugars, and they all sort of play a part in the whiskey. And it's cool to look at them separately, and just sort of, now we've really got known recipes for our core products, and they all sort of play to a different flavor profile. Like Twofold is our blended whiskey, which is really easygoing, mainly matured in American oak, quite soft, light honeyed character, those nice wheat cereal notes. And then Nova, which is what we use in this, very aromatic, has more French profile, does have American oak to fill out the back palate and stuff. And then we've got 100 proof, which is all American oak, 50% charred American oak wine cask, and 50% fresh. So really trying to get those flavor points, because we've got so many different drinkers and want to have something for everybody.
Awesome.
But it took some time to get there. We did go through, let's just put it in all of these barrels. And so I've noticed that French oak is not that complementary to our wheat spirit. it definitely has a very different profile. It's quite tannic and very winey.
Yeah, I feel like the tannin could really eat a gentler spirit. Yeah,
it's a very soft spirit, so that looks really good in American oak hoggies.
Awesome. And when distilling, presumably as well, that's I would assume that's why you aim for a sort of, when distilling your single malt spirit, aiming for a sort of that quite robust, fruit forward, obviously very textural spirit, so that it can play nicely with the tannin of the French oak, sorry, the European oak that you're using in the red wine.
Yeah, definitely. Like our new make is very fruit forward. We use a pale ale malt. That adds a bit of that adds texture to the palate. We've got like creamy characters, bready, brioche stuff coming from the malt, and then we use a Belgian ale yeast. So we've got lots of bananas, tropical fruits, and our ferments our spirit, and it's a very fruit forward spirit. I love seeing our whiskey in bourbon casks and second fill stuff, just like seeing that fruity character, and it's really, really cool. But we don't do much of that.
Wicked. Well, I think that might segue really neatly into a question that I spied just before. Yeah, we've got a few questions touching on this. I'll pop this one up. Pop this one up. Yeah, people asking about whether we'll see, excuse me, Lionel Pepinko has asked, will we ever see a genuine age statement in Starward releases in the future, or will Australian whiskey be forever young? Are there any sort of age statement plans for something that's consistently on the shelves, or is it a case of that that aggressive maturation, even in big casks, 300 liter casks aren't small? Is it one of those things where evaporative losses, the interaction of the oak with the spirit, is it one of those things where it's got no appeal, or you see an age statement down the road, maybe in some of those second, if we love second fill casks and bourbon casks, do you see a sort of path towards something like that down the track?
Yeah, we've definitely played around with the idea of a 10-year-old, but I know that in whiskey it seems people are kind of obsessed with age statements, but 10 years doesn't really mean the same on like an international scale. So even for something to have an age statement of 10 years, like compared to Scotland, that's not really that impressive. And it's like oranges and apples, really.
Yeah.
But the evaporation losses is crazy. So like if we lose about 5% per year. So over 10 years, in a 300 liter barrel, you might get like 200 liters out of it.
And that's a well-performing barrel. You can sometimes see, particularly if you're using your more porous oaks, you'll see evaporation even higher than that. There's few things more depressing when you're wandering through a bond store than popping a spirit thief into a 300 liter barrel and having it come out completely empty because there's only 80 liters sitting in the bottom.
Yeah, and that's definitely happened. And also we do have some old barrels that just become so chewy and tannic, and second fill is the way to go for sure. It would be cool to have like a temperature controlled bond store. We don't have that at Starward, so we're really just at the whim of the environment. But if we could do that somehow, that would be fun. And also at Starward, we haven't released a whiskey over $200. So we want to be like affordable, approachable, and still good whiskey. So I think if we were to go at that 10-year age statement, we'd have to evaluate the cost.
Yeah, we certainly do. That is one of those just sort of unavoidable facts when you are talking about those age statements, those older whiskies, whether it's here or whether it is in Scotland. The older something gets, the longer it's out there, the less of it there is. The more rent has been paid on the bond store in the meantime. And yeah, so sounds like a tentative maybe. If we can,
watch the space. You never know.
Yeah,
it'd be fun.
A bourbon cask 10-year-old. That'd be enough of an experiment, far enough away from the classic Starward style to be still pushing things a little bit. Awesome. I might grab another question. These are fantastic, by the way. Love to see.
Yeah, thank you, everybody.
How are we finding the whiskey? Hopefully everybody is tucking into it. Mine's getting low here.
Yeah, same. I'm tucking into it.
Anything popping on the nose or palate? Anything that you're noticing developing there, Carlie, as we sit with it?
Yeah, I sort of, as we sit with it, like initially I had like bursts of red fruits. It's sort of going to more caramel chews on the nose. Yeah. It's cool.
Sweet.
I reckon I'll be sipping on this over Christmas.
Yeah, absolutely. We did at the tasting on Sunday. This is another reason to get around your local whiskey club events whenever they happen. We had a couple of members turned up with an absolutely delicious Christmas cake that had been made using the whiskey of the month. They had gotten their 3 bottles, and a significant portion of one of those bottles had gone into a Christmas cake.
It's so good.
It was very, very, very good.
Yeah.
I do have a great question here from Scott. One for you, Carlie. What do you feel has been your most interesting creation as Starward's head distiller, master blender?
This year, actually, I released a project called Co-Ferment, which is a co-fermentation of Cabernet juice and our malted wort. So we bought in Cabernet juice that had been freshly crushed, and we put that in our fermenters and brewed our just regular malt on top of it. Co-pitched our 2 yeasts we used, didn't change any other parameter other than the raw material, which is a pretty big one. Fermented that, and that was just like strawberries and cream. It was insane. And when we distilled it, it also smelled like strawberries and cream. And we matured that in wine casks for 6 years and released it in May. So that's been something I've been sitting on and keeping under wraps for a long time, because as soon as I started at Starward, I was like, what happens if we do this? And I went to go get some juice from my old work at Borderley in the Yarra Valley and just did a 20-litre ferment, chucked it through our 5-litre still. And it was really cool. It was a hybrid spirit that's got all of the aromas of an eau de vie, but the body of a whiskey.
Eau de vie being the base of a brandy. So before a brandy gets matured, it's a grape spirit distilled is called an eau de vie. Yeah, but that's a crazy interesting spirit. And 6 years is a long time to have to keep secrets.
Yeah.
When you start a project in the whiskey world, you get very excited about it, and then you have to sit there and twiddle your thumbs for years and years and years.
Yeah, it is crazy. I'm fortunate that we do live in Australia and the maturation time is less.
Yeah.
Because I've seen some of the spirit that I've distilled or have been blending the spirit I distilled back in 2018. So it's cool. Yeah,
I guess that's the trade-off that we have here. We can do these really interesting experiments.
Yeah. And I haven't gone too old since starting.
Yeah.
So.
we don't look a day older than when we started, do we?
No.
And obviously your true answer to that question, the most interesting creation that you've ever made that is a single malt whiskey is Starward.
Yeah. When it comes to single malt, yeah. Absolutely.
No, that actually, I did have this question. It occurred to me earlier today. If you could crack in tomorrow with the entirety of Starward, obviously you turn up to work every day and get to live this question. But if you could turn up at the distillery tomorrow, fire up the fermenters, run the wash that you want, distill that spirit in the way that you want, or maybe just keep everything styled on that front. If you could just do anything with any cask type that you could in the entire world, what do you reckon you'd do as an experiment?
You're
not allowed to say fresh red wine cask.
Yeah. That's a good question.
Sorry, I put you on the spot.
Yeah, well, you know, I'm actually really boring. I like bourbon casting and PX and stuff, and Ruby Port.
It sounds like,
yeah, that. I would love to play around with some more kind of vermouth casks and things like that. We've got a couple of Amaro casks actually, which are crazy, like intense. But in that aperitif kind of like cocktail space would be fun.
Yeah, you can get some really, really funky stuff going with casks that have held that.
Yeah,
certainly one that needs a lot of delicacy and poise in the blending room, I reckon.
Yeah, for sure. But you know, actually, I was looking on the shelf, the maple syrup cask that we did. That was cool. Like some people have been asking about that again, and that was sick. I'll do that again, and more apple brandy. Love apple brandy.
Okay, apple brandy cask.
Yeah.
Awesome. I'm hearing age statement, bourbon cask, and second fill wine cask into apple brandy to finish off.
Yeah, amazing.
What could possibly go wrong? We'll only have to wait 6 years to see. All right, I'll have a quick look. We might just grab one more final question before we wrap up. Oh, that is a fantastic question. So Justin asks, probably our last question for the catch-up. Whiskey and beer are sometimes tasted together. Would you ever suggest a wine and whiskey pairing?
True. Well, actually, we did one with Yalumba. We got their Octavius barrels, which is 100-liter octaves that they used to mature their one of their wines. Something, I think it's Octavius.
You don't have to know their range as well.
Yeah. And we did the wine side by side with the whiskey, and that was really, really cool.
Mm-hmm.
I think that it would be like, we play around with a lot of wineries and different varieties. So like to be able to taste the wine that was maybe in that barrel and try the whiskey side by side would be really, really cool. Yeah,
we had the Yearing Station on Sunday, and I feel like that is it's a pretty bold whiskey, but I think it'd be really interesting to taste it alongside the Pinot that came out of.
Yeah, definitely. And we love to pair whiskey with food as well. So at the distillery, we've got a full menu that puts our whiskey on display and match pairing with food and things like that. A bit like wine, so bringing whiskey to the table like a wine.
Delightful. Making me hungry.
Great questions.
That's fantastic. But we are getting on for time, so we might wrap it up there. Thank you all so much for joining us. Apologies for the technical hitch at the start there. Thank you very much for bearing with us and just looking at the. It's a nice bottle to look at. It probably looks better than me. But thanks so much for joining us. Hope you've enjoyed hanging out with us this evening, and also this incredible whiskey and having it on your whiskey shelf. Thank you so much, Carlie, for your awesome insights. It's pretty special to get to sit down with the person that's made your whiskey, and thanks so much for joining us and the members on the virtual tasting tonight.
Pleasure. Thank you for having me, and thanks for supporting.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. Thank you. I will announce our winner of our competition for the questions, and I would love to give everybody a bottle of whiskey to say thanks for all the awesome questions. Unfortunately, there can only be one winner, and our winner is Frederick Jackson. So congratulations, Frederick, for your awesome question. Everybody's were absolutely fantastic though, and thanks so much for contributing those. They really make it so much more interesting for everybody if you're getting to find out Carlie's answers to those things that you've always wanted to know about Starward. Carlie, if you join me in raising a glass to everybody who's joined us this evening, thank you so much. Cheers.
Yeah, thanks.
We'll see you at the next one. Thanks.